Alright. Talk about something here. Hello, everyone. Hello, Chris is back. Awesome. Alright, I was on a meeting, so everybody be quiet.
Not there.
Um,
Do you take it in Norwegian, please?
nay. It's alright, Tom. Maybe one day in Swedish. But let's, today's seminar is a small, intimate group here. I like it. But I thought we'd talk about some transitions in Backfly. There's a lot that goes into transitions in Backfly that most people just kind of figure out. Or you go find a coach, you know, and jump with them. But then you're still only doing 6, 7 jumps with a coach, and then you're gonna go do another 50 to figure it out. But right now, I thought we could give some good information, so while you're out there figuring it out, you at least have an idea of what you want to be doing, and that when you get out there to do it, and you're not doing the thing you want to do, you can look at the video and know where you want to be. And I'm going to start by just talking about training for a second. I was talking with Chris earlier on this one about 2 ways, right? When you're learning to wingsuit, 2 ways are the best format to do so. They're the safest, and when I was learning the first few hundred jumps, I felt really uncomfortable if there was 4 people and I had to do a transition. I'm gonna be out of the jump, or I'm gonna hit somebody, which I never hit anybody, but I was out of the jump a lot. But with 2 ways, then you can kind of just, the other guy flies to you, or the girl, you know, or the dog, and you get back together and the jump keeps going, and everybody gets to try it once or twice before you have to deploy. And even when you get into 3-way, now, like, it's not everybody flying to each other kind of thing. So 2 ways being the best format to train some of this stuff. Then when you get into like a 10-way and you're like, I don't want to backfly that slot. 2 ways are how we get comfortable. So, let's say the transition, in theory, here's my idea about a transition. It's the thing that gets you from belly flying to back flying. Back flying is where you want to be. Transition is how you get there. And then from back to belly as well. We're not flying, you know, side flying yet. But the back fly skills and the belly fly skills are important. If you can't back fly, your transitions aren't going to be that good. But if you're really good at back flying, you can do bad transitions and save it, which is a really cool thing to be able to do, and just mess up a transition but back fly the rest of it. You're already on your back. So having a good solid back fly foundation makes the transitions better because we're flying from one to the other. And having a good belly flying solid is just, that gets overlooked a lot. Everybody wants to back fly, you know, on transition. But how good are you on the belly? But we won't talk about that today. We're going to talk about transitions and backfly. So first thing I like to say is when I'm going to transition, I'm on my belly and I want to put my body in a backfly position before I transition. And that rhymes for a reason, you know, be in the backfly position before you transition. So that when you get there, it's boom, I'm already in my backfly. But I was here before I went to here. And nothing changes about the body. One of the big things we see in the tunnel, and I see it outside, is just kind of flying the wingsuits everywhere, is people will do the transition and get in a nice ugly backfly position, and less efficient, we'll call it, but it, you know, doing one of these, got the butt sticking down, and then get back into the backfly, right? So with the idea that the transition is leading us to our backs, we want to be back flying and thinking about back flying before we get there. So we don't have that, even 1 second of this is going to put you far behind everybody else, and you're going to lose your slot, right? Altitude at forward speed gets sacrificed there. And you come back and do it. We watch and see it all the time. But we all just want to be that cool, like, boom, I'm here. What's up? Come with the duck. Those are the cool ones. We see all the fancy kids up there doing crazy stuff, and nobody's seems to be falling out or losing any speed while they're doing it. So let's begin with the backfly body position. What is that? Now we want hips forward, and that's really going to mean a rotating of the hips, boom, in this kind of direction, doing a little pelvic thrust. What it is not is an arch. A lot of people try to really drive the shoulders back and get into this arched position on their back. I've done it. I've watched people do it. It's very common to really just backfly. And when I do that, I usually do a layout unintentionally or intentionally. And then if anybody says, bro, I was trying to do a layout, where were you? Right, that's what you say when you do that. But if we want to keep backflying and keep the speed up, we want a straight body, which means our hips are going to be rotated forward, boom. Then if I rotate here, I squeeze the abs a little bit to keep this engaged, which really prevents this from happening. So I've got the stomach going a little bit. I'm going to have my shoulders a little forward. I'm not here, but I want to have a rounded back in this rounded, so this way, where the shoulder comes forward and the air can flow over me this way. By not a rounded back in this direction, this is going to cause us to lose some altitude as well. Some people want to be here. It seems like a kind of natural thing for the body to do. When you move the shoulders forward, you kind of crunch down a little bit. But that's going to cause a loss of speed and can lose some altitude depending on arms. But usually this is going to present your back to the wind, and you're going to slow down if you don't change anything else. So to prevent that, we keep the back engaged while we keep the stomach engaged, rotate the hips forward, and now all of this kind of stays in a straight line. Arms are going to be out in front of us and have chin up. Because we can backfly like this, sure. People do it, but it's not the most efficient way to do it. Another kind of problem with bringing the chin in is it brings the rest of it with it, typically. If we've got good head control, disconnect from the body, sure, you can move this all around, and this isn't going to move with it. But they are connected. So until we get that really dialed in, keeping the head nice and straight, we've got, the string pulling us here, like we got to pull through the body, and bam, we've got a nice, straight, strong position. Legs are going to be straight, boom. The way I was taught, because I messed this up for so long, some guy finally said the thing that clicked to me, and he said, put your heels out, stomp down with the heels, and that's going to straighten out your leg. Bam. Right? And then point the toes. I had this problem of really pointing my toes, but my leg was still kind of bent while I did it. Because you can point your toes with a bent leg. Right? You can shove your heel out with a bent leg. So heel, toe. And when the guy told me that, something clicked in my head. It was like, oh, okay. So that we got the hips, I got the heels, right? Got the tail wing open, boom, boom. Now I'm flying. We're doing the thing. And so that's an overview of the backfly body position. We can alter any of those little pieces that change characteristics in specific ways. Also really like to say that there is no wrong way to fly. So long as the way you're flying does the thing you want it to do. That to me, if you want to fly next to somebody and you're doing it, but he's flying like this and you're flying like this, bro, you did it right. You were there, right? And we get options. So, but there are more efficient ways to fly than others. Ways that give us range in doing following and connecting moves, keeping the altitude, keeping the speed. So we're flying along on our bellies, doing a little thing, chilling. Maybe I'm kind of hanging out a little slow. But what I'm going to do right before I go to transition, I'm about to hop on my back, is I'm going to straighten out the legs, bring my hips forward, and then kind of tighten this up a little bit so that I get a good solid core, and boom! Now I'm in my back fly position during the transition and then landing it on my back. So that leads us naturally to, well, how do I transition? I got my back fly going, I'm on my belly, I need to flip it over. What do we got? There are 3 ways of transition that I've identified, and I separate them by what I do with my arms. And knowing all 3 is cool because they have their different uses. There are 2 I teach in the tunnel, 1 I don't teach in the tunnel, just because it gets a little sketchy, can be. They work like 80% of the time, so they're kind of hard to unlearn. But let's start with the number 1 that if you come hang out and fly with me and we're doing some coaching, that we're going to learn the first one with bending the arm. And the way I separated them is what I'm doing with the arm that goes underneath. So I'm on my belly, one arm's going over, the other arm's going under. That's any transition, right? One arm up, one arm down. So the underarm, I teach to bend arm, and this is what we teach in the tunnel. So the hand's coming to the hip, and we're going to slide this through. While this one's generating lift, and I'm generating lift by pulling tension into the wing, which if I did it with both, I go up. But I only want one side to go up. So I'm going to pull tension along this wing, bring this hand here, and then move this bent arm over into this other position. But I'm really leading with the over wing. Right? That's the one that's flying and initiating this transition. The other thing I'll say about transitions is we fly that. And I'm not twisting and then hoping to catch myself halfway through the rotation. Right? Let's just send it and catch something. But the entire rotation is due to the lift I'm getting off one side, and I'm getting near zero on this side that allows it to rotate along the body as an axis. Theory-wise, if we have some lift over here, we'll probably get some travel in that as well. And those can be pancakes. That's a different topic. Those are my favorite pancakes. But by controlling the lift, as we split the suit in 2 from one wing to the other, we can cause this rotation to happen. And it's the air that does the rotating. When I practice this on the ground, I call it the ballerina. I get up on my toes because I have straight legs. This is all locked out, and I'm gonna pull this one up and then do this. All right, but I want to simulate as much on the ground as possible that I do in the air. What I'm not doing, and I tell my students not to do this, is to okay, I'm transitioning, and then this whole thing moves, and they want to throw that around with some momentum in the body. That's not the recommended style. It's out of control, usually, if we just kind of throw it and see what happens. But they can work, which is the other thing I don't like about the things that can work sometimes. It's really deceptive because you can, I did it, oh man, and then you just keep doing that, and that becomes some muscle memory type deal. And then we have to learn how to not use the momentum, but use the lift that we're getting out of the suit. So, You know, this, if you're training on the ground, it's a ballerina one, so this all stays straight. You're coming around and we're not doing this twisting throwing motion. When we get the legs off from the upper body, they have to come back. Because we're not going to back fly like this. We're not going to belly fly like this, right? With our legs going one way, the upper body going the other. So there has to be that correction moment if we get in that. Usually, if the legs are off from the upper body, that's what I call loose hips, right? That this isn't locked in, so that I can do this. But if I lock all of that, it all kind of comes together, more of that like robot style. So it moves as one piece, and generating the lift on this side. Now the other two ways, the other one that I really like, that's my favorite, the one I do, is I call it the straight arm transition, but with a closed wing. And I'm moving, and this is belly or back, right? So belly flying, I'm moving this elbow to these ribs, arm in front of me, and this really shuts down this way. Right? On the belly, on the back, it's the same move. I generate lift over here, and boom. I can just put this back out. On the back, I can put it back out. That's what I started doing at the end of last year, playing with it, and now I'm teaching that one. But if you want to do cool triple barrel rolls and just go boom, 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 that's a really cool way to do it. But do that in the sky, or come to the tunnel and maybe we'll get there. But the other two, or the other way, one way, is, and this is the one I don't teach, but I'm going to tell everybody because it's common. So that is to really just throw one arm through. So it leads with the low arm. And they're a lot more common in the back to belly scenario, which now we'll start that one in a second. So back to belly, we see a lot of guys just do this, and it flips the whole thing over. So basically the underarm is now catching wind over here and just flips it. And they're kind of wobbly, kind of floppy. They're tough to control. There's a spot for that. They work in times. They're fast, right? You just flip that thing over. I don't find I can be as accurate with that. If I do that one, I can't like stop to take a dock afterwards. But if it's just, I'm trying to get back to my belly really quickly, or I want to like really get this thing over, you can throw this swing over here, and now the under wing is catching the lift and bringing you up, or this way, bringing you back to your belly. I prefer to fly the wing going over, and then control a lot with the one going under. And that took me a lot of time to kind of figure that out. But if we're flying the transition, and not worrying about this underarm, but more just closed. And here's a kind of concept for closing a wing. I think elbow to the body. That our elbows, there's this really weird proportion of how far my elbow is from my body, like right here, boom, it is the amount of wing that I have. And then it gets to here kind of thing, and you can pull some tension in it. It's not going to move up here, but if it's here, it's at 0. If it's here, it's at 100, and pretty much proportional all the way through. So that's how I've been gauging how much wing I have at one side, is how much distance between the elbow and the body. But let me back up, because we talked about some belly, or belly to back, but back to belly. Because even still, there's that first one with the bent arm. They're showing, so belly to back is going to be this way. And then a back to belly is pretty much the opposite. And almost exactly the opposite. But what I'm going to do is, from my back flat position, I'm going to rotate one hand. Because as I bring this arm in bent, I want the elbow next to the body to give me that no lift on one side, clean transition for you guys. Elbow next to the body. The reason I flip this hand over is that this, as soon as I turn the hand out here, now that's hard to do. I have my palm down and my elbow here, but this is a much easier, just anatomically how bodies work. So I can be here much easier than I can be here. This kind of wants to bend the body as well. I see that a lot. So I'll flip one hand over and then bend at this elbow while bringing the other arm and wing up and back. I want to think up and back, pulling tension onto that wing and really getting it there. And now, a little ballerina. As it comes around, this is what we're going to look at. This one then just goes right back out into flight. And controlling the speed at which we do this is going to help control the smoothness of our transitions. These cool transitions where it's just and lands in spot. There's no wobble, no wiggle. That has a lot to do with controlling how much lift we get back on this other side so that it smoothly lands into place. Now the straight arm one that I was telling you, I already showed you. We'll show it again though. If I'm back flying, I don't need to flip my hand for this one. I don't need to change anything except to go here. This other arm's still going up and back to get that lift. And now I'm here and it rotates over and I can just put this arm slowly back out into flight and don't need to bend the arm at all. Some situations where those aren't as good that I've been learning is some like two-way, really smooth carve stuff that I've been flying in the Freak. Is that I found if I'm not bending this arm, they can get really fast in the sky, and the airspeeds really want to like just take this wing and slap it back out. And maybe if I go to the gym out here a little more, I can muscle that thing down. But I have been finding that if I bend this arm, it doesn't want to snap back out as fast. Just a reason that I might do that over one or the other. But my belly to back transitions, I'm here. I just boom, boom. And I'm not bending this arm, usually. And that wasn't the first way I learned how to do it, but as you get a little bit of experience, it can be, I think it's better. That's how I use it. And I like it because I can just, bam, I'm here. I don't have to worry about bending anything. It's the same arm position. Back-to-back barrel rolls, right here on there. I start bending everything and it gets a little weird. I much prefer the straight arm over the bent arm. And then the throwing arm kind of stuff, they work, they're great. They're awesome for what they're good for. But not so much good for, say, you're in an acro competition or you're in a tunnel, or you want to like take your transition and take it off and be right there in your slot, kind of the whole, within 2 centimeters thing. They're a little less accurate. Here's just some other tips. When we're transitioning, let's say, come on, man, check me down.
Yes.
I'm right here. Come hang out with me. Be my buddy. All right. I'm looking at you. All right? I want to do a transition. I'm gonna start with some in-face kind of stuff. It keeps it safer. Because if I start traveling, I'm usually gonna go from belly to back. I'll go this way. And you're gonna be there. I'm transitioning,
yeah.
and I messed it up, and I did something, and I fly away from you. Okay? But if I do it the other way, right, and I do that same mistake, I'm coming at you. Usually find on a belly to back transition that you're gonna go, if you don't do it right, you're gonna travel a little bit away. Right? And now the back to belly ones, it's dependent on how you mess it up. But there's a couple ways, and it's usually gonna be this thing, and you'll lose some speed and come back. But just for a little safety, when you're practicing this out on those 2 ways, do in-face stuff until you're comfortable that you can do out-face stuff and not hit your other guy. And then the looking is really important for that. That a lot of folks tend to, they get in this zone of like, all right. And they get the side eye, like, I'm looking, I can see you, right? And then, no, I'm still looking, right? But if we look with the head, we get a whole lot of benefits. I'll list a couple of them here. One is the world doesn't spin, right? Boom. Everything, my whole sight picture stayed the same. And yes, it did transition, I moved, but it helped me to stay where I wanted to stay, as far as speed and altitude. And if I slowed down, I knew it right away, right? And oh wait, yeah, those hips, I didn't get my hips right, right? And I can get back there. Now, if my whole world spins while I do it, and then I come back to him, there's a much longer moment before you figure out what you need to do. And just keeping one solid point helps us in the transition to keep the body position and the head where we want to have it. It's just so common to come out like this, and you're looking at your feet, and you're looking at your body and make sure, oh, okay, let me make sure my body's in the right spot. I did it. Most people do it. Like, it is so common, it's not even funny. That, like, look with the chin. I think I'm going to point my chin at you and have that continue to be pointing where I want it. I said it because looking with the eyes can be deceptive, right? I'm looking at you, I'm still looking at you, right? But the whole head's moving with it. And I really think to have a straight on picture, I say look with the chin and point that there. And then we've got a good head position for what we want to do, which keeps the body position. Back to what we said a little earlier, that the head, it is connected. I hope it's connected. That's other problems. But it took a long time for me to figure out how to fly my body without moving my head, or to move my head without moving my body. And it seems it just takes a while. It's normal, we're not doing that a lot. But once you kind of get that, then you can really move your head anywhere and do whatever you want to do, knowing that the body's there. We've got to get to that spot, you know. And so until we're there, we're solid on it, we can give ourselves some little pointers along the way that help to get there. And one is look with the chin. So we've covered some backfly. We've covered 3 types of transition, both directions, belly and back. That's all I had to say, though. Really, I think that was about it. Are there any questions?
For me, it's never flying before. So one critical point for me is the pull time. What is your step by step when you're pulling?
When I'm pulling, okay. It's different in a bigger suit than it is in a smaller suit. So we'll take the smaller suit route for your folks. The pull time, I want to be altitude aware. I'm going to say that first.
Yeah.
Be altitude aware. And if you're going to be pulling at 4,000 feet or above, tell everybody if you're jumping with people.
Yeah.
Right? Now, once you got that out of the way and break off time comes. So one of the things it's nice to know, if you're running 2 ways, you can kind of just get away from each other. But if you're in a group, right, you're looking for clear airspace, and everybody has briefed this beforehand. So that, okay, I'm going to head, you guys are going to go that way, I'm going to go this way. All right, and now I'm looking around, make sure nobody's above me. But now you're in your clear airspace. You're headed, cool. Okay, it's almost going to be pull time. So what I'm gonna do is slow down. Slow down. We wanna stop going forward and go more down. In the smaller suits, you're not gonna get a flare. In the big suits, that's kind of the way to do it. So in the smaller suit, you really bring that chest open, right? You've been in the tunnel, right? We do this, go backwards, go slower in the tunnel. That's what we want to do. All right, we're gonna keep this open. Give it a little bit of arch.
Yeah.
Start arching that a little bit, and that's really gonna slow down my vertical or my horizontal, and put me back into a more vertical down. So one that I try not to do is, but it happens, just be aware of it, is bending the legs too much. Because we still are going forward, and our pilot chute wants to, or D-bag wants to come out horizontally. So if I do bend my legs, it's not back up here so that they're in the way of where my D-bag might come out. I've seen too many videos about guys having the lines wrapped around their feet. And you'll feel that if it hits your foot, you'll feel it. It's an interesting one. That's where they're like, oh shit, here come the line twist. Sometimes it doesn't happen in line twist, but I've definitely felt that many times. We're slowing down. We're getting this little arch going on. We're still flying. Keep the arms still flying. Then you get to your spot and you're like, okay, I'm feeling a little more comfortable. I'm not going as much forward. I'm kind of going down. I'm gonna reach back and throw this thing out. I've heard like 3 different ways to do this as to when you're here and you throw back out. Some people say, just keep flying. I say that. Other folks are throw, close this thing. Alright, some people want to be up here, and then other people are just like close it back down to where you just have it. Now, this is better closed wings behind you if you want to keep them closed. This can get a little funky because the suit still gets some air here, and it can throw you off. The big goal here is to continue being symmetrical. Whatever it takes for you to be symmetrical and not send it diving down in the middle of that deployment. So I like the flying through it, and then I would just sit here and wait, and there's my canopy, cool. But I definitely heard it the other ways. What you want to do is make sure that you're maintaining symmetry in whatever you're doing, so that you don't throw this thing and go, whoa, end up going down. And it's usually over that right shoulder. I don't know why. But that should be the goal. It's slowing down your forward speed, getting in a deployment glide position and maintaining your symmetry, keeping it flying.
Would you bend your knees? I've seen people bend their knees like upwards.
I don't. I just try to keep the tail wing doing what its tail wing thing. And not closed, not like just kind of there. And seeing that also, I don't like it for the reason that if you do it too soon, it can definitely cause instability. And there's nothing wrong with it if it's done, and you throw and you close everything all up, kind of balled up. It can work. Where that instability it can introduce is bringing it in, and now you get a little pop from down here that you didn't want, and you're going head low. So if you can do that without going head low, do. If you're not confident that you can do that, you're worried about it, don't. It's not going to be a fun deployment if you're looking at the ground and your feet are above your head and you're like, shit, what's going to happen here? Your whole thing's going to, feet to lines, boom, and it's going to be fun. And same kind of problem if you got too much forward is that feet to lines really snappy, and you get line twists from that. I've had 2 cutaways on mine, and it was deployment going too fast was when I moved to the ATC. From a Swift to an ATC, and I sucked. So I was like, oh, I need a canopy, I'm low, bam, and then oh shit, here we go, and I was on my back spinning, you know. But that was because I was going too fast, and the kick from the speed of the deployment caused me to then just spin under my canopy. So, good question. Deployment. Maintain symmetry and stability. Fly your body through it. When I say fly through it, we're flying here, right? These help, but keep this body symmetrical in what you're doing, and any of them work. Right? Some people prefer one over the other. The big goal is just being symmetrical and not going too fast forward when you deploy.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
See Lohan?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm ending up with my big suit following people in a smaller suit. Swift, Havoc, and I'm flying with Freak. And I'm fucking up the transition. So like you really end up on your belly chasing them like, and then you want to do a transition and there's actually nothing I can do about it. What you just explained, like my legs straight, lock the hip, chest out. So that's the reason why I always fuck it up. Is there anything like, not a way to go, but is there something to do better about it? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because every time when I do this, like straighten up, lock the hip, all the things you just said, then I'm, of course, getting lift, getting speed, and then I'm going back down again on my back.
What you can do in that situation
Change
is
you.
that, but fly differently in that like small suit, you know, faster down, so it's a lower glide, and instead of having the like braked with the knees turned down, hanging out with everybody, which is more in that angle of attack and using the knees for the brake. Because as soon as you open that back up, the suit, what are you saying? I've been doing a lot of flying using the hips and the arch for some smaller suit stuff, or just more down, that I can keep my chest, or where my angle of attack is, about the same, and use the hips for some down. So I get more inefficient in the suit to fly with smaller suits. And then from there, I can bring this in transition and be here better. And the transition to the transition body position is better in what I've done. Because when I do fly like this, you really have to hit that transition kind of like with the bent legs and then straighten them out in the middle of the transition, which is really hard to do. Okay? For anybody, that's just hard to do because you got to time it right. But if I fly hips down, just a little dirty, that now I can pop all this back in and I have immediate power available, where if I'm flying in this position, I feel like it doesn't have it right there. If I go back out, I don't have the same power out of the wings that I have when I'm in a little bit more head high, kind of arch, chilling and falling like here with everybody instead of here with everybody. But if you're chasing a rodeo, it's probably not going to work so much with the hips out. Like you're going to be like this. I've tried it. It didn't work as well. But for small suit stuff, I like using my hips more in an arch position to get me that down that I need. and then I can use the wings and for some forward speed and chest a little bit. But if I'm here, I can still kind of go there, and it really makes me go down a lot more when I need to. So that's how I would fly it differently on my belly, so that I have the ability to transition without having to like fully change the way I'm flying.
Yeah.
So yeah, the knees breaking, I've moved away from that, and only since I've been in the tunnel, like everybody outside always taught me exactly that. That was what I learned. Turn it down, bend your knees, go slower, more angle, and so you can get more down and forward, a lower glide ratio. I've just learned since then in the tunnel that there's a few other ways to do it, and they're totally different. So try it. Next time you're flying with some small suit people, start arching a little bit. Bring the wing down, bring in a little. Let's play this. See what happens. And if you really want to you just hang out like this. Be like, yeah, bro, let's fly the wingsuit.
Yes, yesterday we was talking about the arching as a kind of emergency stop.
Yes.
But we all been doing our tracking, and we got the muscle memory of braking the way what you guys have been talking about now. Braking with the knees and changing the angle in the hips. So we got to move away from that.
No.
No, you said instead arching and moving away from that kind of that way of braking and sinking.
I'm going to go back to one we hit, I think right before you walked in, was there is no wrong way to fly. That if you're there and you're on your belly and you're doing your thing and you're right there and you got the knees in, boom, you're doing it. Because you might be flying right next to me and I'm doing this and you're like, yeah, bro, and we're exactly where we want to be. And then I'm going to transition to my back and keep going down, and then he's going to pop up and transition and then try to come back down. That's where it makes a difference. I usually see it in the next move that you're trying to do. That it may work well for, we're both on our bellies, we're doing the thing, but if we want to do some transitions and flip over like that, and that next move, which is the best setup in the body position for that next thing, and how's the adjustment period from this body position to that body position, how does that affect the flight? And if we go out and run this and try it, and everybody's there doing the thing, then don't change anything. If it's not working, try a different way. There may be something that works a little bit better for that, setting you up for that next move. To keep the power, to keep the lift and the speed, or the not lift, however you want to have it.
Just more tools in the box.
Just more tools. There might be some hexagon wrenches, kind of thing. But, you still with us, Robert? Okay, cool. Good. Anybody else? Going once?
Could you explain how to do a wingsuit rodeo exit? How to do wingsuit rodeo?
That's going to be the next class. We're going to limit this one to kind of the topic we were on. How about that? But we can talk about that a little bit if you want. I just don't want to keep everybody here for this was transitions and backfly. Is everybody ready to go do some transitions and backfly? Boom. Very good.